Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main event. You're here with me, Daniel.
And Aaron.
Aaron, another game days flew by. We've got a couple of days rest. So we thought we'd jump on tonight and have a little chat. We are going to go through our round of 16 points. Who hit, who blanked, who saved our bacon, Benzema. And we also have some Twitter questions with regards to people using chips and just after some basic questions answering. So we'll go through a few of them. We'll give our predictions for just who we think is going to win the games, nothing much. And then we will give our team reveals. Spoiler, we are both using wildcards this week. So we did save them. But let's just dive right into how our teams did. Aaron, do you want to go first with where you're at, what your points are, what your ranks are?
Yeah, just get it over and done with.
It's just it's easier. It's just painless if you just rip it straight off.
Yeah, exactly. So this game week was definitely the biggest roller coaster for me. After the first 2 days, I was literally saying it in our group chat. I was like, I'm sick of this. I'm done. And then by the end of it, I was like, go on, bring on the quarterfinals. So a big roller coaster. Big roller coaster for me. Just dropped my phone there and just missed a consistency. So 58 points seems to be between 54 to 58 is what I get every time. So in terms of who saved me, Benzema, captain, thank goodness, and Forsberg in the end as well. I had 3 defenders with 0 points, Gosens, Dumfries, and Alba. So that was rough, especially when you had to sub out. And I was like, go on, just appear once Alba came on and still got 2 goals conceded. So,
yeah.
And then Gosens. But at that point, I was just after anything. And then when he got yellow carded, I was like,
Serves you
bad
right.
times.
You deserve it.
Yeah. And so, other than that, other than Forsberg and Benzema, everyone was around 2 or 3 points. So, just thank you, Kareem.
What's
In
your
terms of rank,
yeah?
sorry, in terms of rank overall, I've climbed up around about 100,000 places. So that's good.
That's quality. That
So I'm 152,000 roundabout, and then in England, 18,933, and 33 in the main event podcast. So I've climbed 2 spaces in our league.
happy days. I had another okay week. I got 67 points. So my biggest concern came from Jorginho wandering off the post into no man's land against Austria for that ridiculous header to go in. That cost me a ridiculous amount of points because I had Spinazzola as my captain and had Donnarumma in net. So that wasn't very good. I wasn't overly enamored with Jorginho after that moment. That being said, Spinazzola stayed in because 5 points. Simon Chair with 6 points. Jakob Mill with 12 points. All did me well. I put in Sarabia. He was one of my transfers in. So 7 points off him. Forsberg, 7 points off him. Benzema, who ended up becoming my captain, obviously got me a 20. Blankers were Depay, Immobile, Genie. And I had the bench of dreams, really. Dumfries with 0, Patrick Van Aanholt with 1, and KDB with 1. So I couldn't have done better for the bench there. The only issue was I took out Donnarumma and put Olsen in. He conceded the second latest goal in Euros history. But I'm also quite pleased because Emil Forsberg scares the life out of me playing against England. So I was like, well, I'll take it. I'll take it. Providing Ukraine don't beat England. With regards to ranks, I've had a slight rise. I cannot remember what it was, but I am now 10,138 in the world. I am 1,386 in England. I'm up to 4th in the main event podcast league. So
Get in.
catching up. I am 9 points behind first in our league. So
Oh, that's close.
fingers crossed. But yeah, like I say, we've got wild cards. I think a lot of people have used theirs. Some people haven't, which is good. I tweeted this earlier on. I've seen a lot of hindsight posts of like about upsides for using both chips in the groups. There are lots of FPL content creators that say when you use a wild card, it's not for 1 week, it's for the next 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks. So it's not hindsight. Do the maths. Getting the upside on 1 week is not as good as 3 consistent scores over 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it is a hindsight thing. I just think it's either the wrong decision or you've gotten trigger happy. And I appreciate all the people that got trigger happy because that is usually me with FPL. I am like a week 2 wild card. It's rubbish. Change it. So I totally get it. But it was always the right decision to do it now.
Yeah.
That being said, we do have some Twitter questions, Aaron. So let me get those Twitter questions up. We will not go in the order. So first of all, Danny at Arctic_FPL, give him a follow. I'm questioning who starts out of Dolberg and Poulsen up front for Denmark, or even both. What are your thoughts on it? So what are your thoughts on it, Aaron?
I've been reading reports that Poulsen had a slight tweak in training, and that he is, as if it was FPL and it wasn't just doubtful and injured like it is on this app, I would say he has a yellow flag. But in terms of how good of a performance that Dolberg had in the last game, and then came off in, I think it was the 70th minute, I think that they can't not play him. I think he works out as cheaper as well. So even if he doesn't play, he wasn't that big of a sacrifice in terms of budget. I think neither of them are, but when it comes to the forward spaces, we're all kind of congregating to the same ones now because there's not as many strikers left in the game. So I think Dolberg's only owned by 2% currently, which makes him a good differential. Actually, I think off the top of my head, Poulsen's probably around about the same. So
I think Dolberg's definitely got a higher ceiling than Poulsen.
Definitely. And just the way he played, it was like, I heard someone say that the career mode legend and that's the performance that he played last game.
Was
kind of like after you've had him for like 5 seasons and he's turned into this world-class striker.
100% chemistry, 10 out of 10. The issue that I've got with Dolberg is he's never been consistent at any club for his national team. And one of our highlights before the Euros was that Wales are full of championship players. They did well to get out the group. I think the 1-0 against Italy that they still lost was a little deceiving because Italy played a second string team and that was effectively like their first game, whereas Wales were well into the swing of it. I don't think they're going to have such an easy time against the Czech Republic. I think their defense is significantly better than Wales's. Out of the two, I'd go Dolberg all day long, but I'm not really convinced by either. Especially again, we still have some absolutely mustard strikers to pick from. But out of the two, do we both agree Dolberg?
Yeah. If you had to choose between the two, but preferably wouldn't have it unless you significantly need to climb ranks, which is why Dolberg is someone that I'm considering.
Love to hear it. I've gone for a differential striker, I think. I'll answer this next one first, and you can jump in. So, KG, this is at KG_FFB. I'm literally playing for the wooden spoon at this stage and just having fun. Couple of laughy faces. But if you still had a wild card and limitless left, which chip do you think can give the biggest rank rise in the quarterfinal? And I would then use the other chip in the semi-final. So to go back to a point I've just made, don't think about 1 week as you have 3 weeks to make the most amount of points. Forget 1 week to make the most amount of points. And there is a correct answer. I've seen a couple of people actually post, but I can't believe there are 2 chips left. Well done, news.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are in this position, we've talked about this loads of times on our Champions League podcast, and I think it's even more important now because of the lack of 2 legs. Use your limitless now and wildcard later. And the reason for that is there's a couple. First of all, the weakest teams are in now, not later. So you want to target more expensive players now, not later. That's number one. But number two, if we play through both scenarios, so let's play through the other scenario first. You decide to use your wild card now. Okay. You have 8 teams to pick from that you need for this round and the final. And obviously you want to get 5 transfers, which is fine, because you're going to use your limitless in the semis. But that gives you effectively 4 teams that are going to go out and more opportunities to get it completely wrong. Whereas if you do it the other way around, you use your limitless now, target the more expensive players playing against some of the cheaper ones. You can take as many risks as you want. You can really target just this round's worth of fixtures, not have to worry about the future. And if someone gets knocked out, which is better. And then when you use your wild card for the semis, you know that you can go for such an even distribution that you are guaranteed to have people playing in the final, and you will be covered by your 5 transfers. And remember, for the final, we will see the starting lineups. So you don't need anyone on your bench at all, because you know that they're going to play from the moment of kickoff. So you only need 11 starters and you're done. So there is a very simple answer to this question. Limitless now, wildcard later. But I'm guessing by you nodding that you agree.
Yeah, to me, I wouldn't even contemplate the other way around, because if I was to do the wild card now and then limitless in the semi-final, your team is going to revert back to what it was in the quarter-final.
Yeah.
Which means that you've got to try and predict what 2 teams
are going to be in the final.
Are in the final already. And as if this last round has taught us anything, is that you can't predict one-off knockout ties. And yeah, it's just it just doesn't make sense to me to do it that way, because even 5 transfers probably isn't enough to try and sort that out, unless you just got really lucky. But then again, would it work out that you got as big of a score this week to make the to make the limitless worth it? Because all of our teams are going to revert into that kind of model. I think Belgium is probably the most expensive per player basis, maybe England as well. So unless it was a Belgium-England final, we're going to be able to get 11 starters and still have money left over.
Yeah, exactly.
Be happy. So the limitless loses that kind of value the longer you go in, because not every player is priced at the premium. I think it's only England and Belgium off the top of my head. I think everyone else has a good spread of funds.
Yeah, and then I think even if you look at Italy, probably Italy and Spain behind those.
Yeah, I think the Spanish defenders,
Spanish
centre-backs help out in terms of bringing the value, like the cheap options back in.
Guess which one's playing. So yeah, I think that's an easy answer to give. Just don't put yourself at unnecessary risk. Aaron, third question. There are 4 questions, just so everyone knows. Third question. Which team will you take a risk and triple up except for England?
So when I saw this one, I thought this one was very, very tough, because this last round of fixtures has just scared me off doing that I know we're going to cover it, but in terms of, if I didn't have a wild card, I would have had 8 people eliminated in this last round. So that would have been me pooped for the rest of the tournament. And I think Italy, because from the group stage, they were my favourites to win, and I think they'll beat Belgium. So I'd potentially go there, but I would mostly go for the attackers more than the defenders. I think the Italian double up in defence isn't as good anymore, just in my opinion. So triple up maybe with the attackers to try and predict who is going to get that return, because they do have so many weapons. But then you could also try and spread that out to Belgium if needed as well, just kind of targeting that fixture, because the likelihood is the winner of that tie is probably going to beat Spain, just with the way that we've seen Spain play lately.
Yeah.
And so you could spread it out, maybe have 3 of each, but that is a lot of eggs in that one basket, especially if it's who knows, it could just be a very dull game.
I've got Italy. So for my triple ups, I had a triple Denmark, but I've changed one of the Danish players to fit in someone else for a tactical reason, which we'll go through in the team reveal. I think Italy are good for it. We've said we have to go with our guts. Sometimes we have to stand by what we say from the beginning of these podcasts. Forever and a day, we've lamented Roberto Martinez's managerial ability. We have to put our talk where it's worth now. And if we look at how Belgium have played against any team with attacking fullbacks or wingbacks, it's been a bit of a problem for them. So I think Spinazzola I think he's a really good pick again. I don't see why I'd go any different. He's effectively an attacking player anyways. He's a left winger. And you might get some clean sheet points off him as well. Obviously, looking at goalkeepers, you need one from one day and one from the next. I think Pickford's the standout for the second day. Jinxing my own team, yeah. So then we'll have to look at the first day. Who's the most likely to keep a clean sheet between Belgium, Italy, Switzerland, and Spain? I think Spain are out. And I do think Spain will score against Switzerland. So it leaves Belgium and Italy. And you've just said you think Italy are going to go through. So that leaves by proxy Donnarumma, really.
Mm-hmm.
So you then want to go for some Italian attackers to exploit an aging, untested Belgium defence. And Torgan Hazard is not a natural left wing back. So if Chiesa plays, I think he's going to have him on toast. Mm-hmm. Meunier, we've said before, for Dortmund, isn't very good at defending. And to be fair, he's not been very good in the tournament except for that one game. His opening game, he was tremendous. And since then, he was okay against Portugal. The 2 games in the middle, he wasn't very good. Particularly against Denmark, he was terrible. So I think Italy would be a way to go. And on the other side, like I say, if you wanted to, for a real risk, Denmark, I think they're so good at defending. They beat England. I can't remember whether it was qualifying a Nations League, but they've beaten us recently 1-0. They're the bane of people's lives. And I think without Kevin De Bruyne, there would have been Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
Genuinely, he changed the game. And that's the big thing. De Bruyne is reportedly injured. Now, if Martinez is pulling our legs, genius. But if not, I can't see the likes of Leandro Dendoncker and Tielemans overrunning that Italian defence.
No, like as an Irish fan, Denmark are the absolute bane of our lives. We just every single time just seem to be drawn against them.
0-0 1-1s for you, isn't it? Every time you play,
because we've learned how to play against them. Like it's when you play against the opposition enough times, and national teams, there's not as much rotation. You're going to play your best 11 when you only have 2 games to play, and so eventually learned how to play against them, and we still can't beat them. They always end up like they have so many chances. We're defending for our lives. It's just rough both times. Yeah. Eriksen just caused us absolute nightmares each time, but not even Eriksen, like wing backs, like Melee. I'm sure everyone knows he's going to be a mainstay for people in the Champions League next year.
Yeah.
It's just players like that just cause us nightmares. I know Ireland is not very good, anyways, but it just shows the quality that they have. And you'll just look around their team and you're like, oh yeah, he plays in the Premier League. He plays in the Premier League. Like, he plays in the top tier of that country. Like, yeah, lots of quality. And I think triple up on Denmark. Okay, I can see them getting past Czech Republic. That I would say that's more of an enabler to let you get other people from other teams.
Yeah.
So I
Simon
think that
Cher,
they're a
four
good
and a
route.
half. Jakob Miller, 4.7. It's worth having them so you can afford big boys elsewhere anyway.
Yeah.
We'll fly into the next question, the last question before we do our predictions and team reveals. I think we've sort of half said our predictions anyway. According to you guys, at FPL Rossoneri, give them a follow. According to you guys, who are the best captain options for both the game days? And just before we answer this question, I'm really sorry, it was Abdul Hamid. So that is at ABD_Hamid 14. Just for the previous question, give them a follow. Sorry, I didn't give you a shout out, Abdul. I feel really rude. But yeah, captains each day, Aaron, who we're going for?
I think for the captain for the first day, I know a lot of people, from what I've seen on other people's Twitter feeds and YouTube channels, they're going with Morata. Really high ceiling, but we know Morata does not fill us with confidence.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of...
It was one worldie and that's it. The world goes insane.
Yeah, like...
It was a worldie, by the way.
A quality goal. But when it comes to his high ceiling, I think there's better options in the Spanish team than Morata, like Sarabia, for example. And will we know that lineup? That's the lineup we know.
We'll know the Spain-Switzerland lineup, which I am relying on because I have 4 players across that game.
Right.
Yes. So yeah, that's what I'll be looking at, because especially with the players I've gone for players that I think can do something, providing they play. So if they don't, then I can make the changes. They're the biggest risks I've got in the team, I think.
Mm-hmm. And they've just been rotating so much, so it's a good thing that we know their lineup. But in terms of the other game, that one's so close to call, and I guess it's just who do you see getting to the final, probably putting it on their main person. Like, with the injuries that you've mentioned before, I think Hazard's injured as well.
Yeah.
Eden Hazard. And De Bruyne is potentially out. He's the one who I think is getting, could be, could not be. He's the one that there's a little bit more question marks around. So that means Lukaku's ceiling potentially might not be as high, because that means he might have to drop deeper for the ball. And that's not where you want him. You want him right on the corner of right on the line of the offside to try and turn in and around. So from the other game, probably like kind of what you were saying before, like Spinazzola, great pick. He has been all tournament. But potentially one of their other players like Chiesa, depending on how Immobile plays, if he plays like last week, then it's a good thing you're allowed to switch your captains.
Yeah. He wasn't great, was he?
No.
I think for the opening games, I think I'd actually go for the other forward in the Spain game, Seferovic. He had France on toast. And if you look at how Spain have defended balls into the box, they've not wanted any of it. Even though Laporte, amazing at attacking the ball in the other box, the player that he's with, whether it be Garcia or Pau Torres, they aren't keen on sticking their head on anything, because everything in Spain's played on the ground. And we saw how that lad completely dominated against that French back four, which is probably on par with Spain's, if not even a little bit better than Spain's, if Laporte couldn't even get in. So I think that is a risky, very tricky pick for a captain. That being said, if you've got him, it's probably a differential enough just having him.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be better going into the Italian game. And the two picks for me would be number one, Spinazzola, because he is a left winger and he might get some defensive points for keeping a clean sheet. And if Hazard and De Bruyne are out, I think the opportunity to keep a clean sheet is just so high, particularly for De Bruyne. And we are allowed to take a risk in the first match day, so why not? Why not do that? Also, if he's attacking Thomas Meunier, I fancy him all day long against Meunier defensively. The other player would be Chiesa, and that is because the way that Italy play is Spinazzola can do anything he wants on that left-hand side, whether that be Florenzi or Di Lorenzo at right back, doesn't really go forward, tucks in to make a three. If the ball's on the other side and Spinazzola's still wide, they'll just stay shifted across together. And because of that, I think Torgan Hazard is going to be fairly well marked. I don't think Chiesa is going to have to worry about Torgan Hazard in the slightest, which is just going to leave him one-on-one with Vermaelen or Alderweireld, because I think they're the two that play left side, I think.
I think Alderweireld is.
Yeah, I mean, I fancy that all day long. And that is who we think is going to start Chiesa and not Berardi, which is probably right. Berardi's been very disappointing. He's like a five-a-side player. Do you know the ones that just pick up the ball and shoot and get it deflected or hit into the cage somewhere miles away? I know he's got 3 assists, and one of them was great. But his overall plays, I think, has been fairly poor. And Insigne has been shocking. Absolutely shocking. And we don't understand why Berardi doesn't play on the right and Chiesa plays on the left. But never mind. I think Chiesa and Spinazzola for day one are the two best captaincy shouts, and I'll be going for one of them. Who's your captain for the second day then? If that all goes to pot, who would you pick?
I would definitely target the England game. I think from the other game, I'm not even, me personally, you want your second and your last pick to be want people who like are a bit more safer. So Sterling looks a great shout just with his form recently and just the runs that he's making into the box. He's occupying the space that Kane leaves behind, which is what's frustrating about Kane, is that he should be in there because he's more likely to put them away. But now that Kane's scored, he's also a I don't know, kind of the monkey off the back. This could be hit, like the leash is off. He's now able to go and be free now that pressure's off him, and he's the penalty taker still. So depending on depending on the lineups, I would choose them too. But obviously, we won't know either way because they're the last game. So I think they're the safest ones to play. If it was anyone else in midfield, you don't know who's going to play. Any of the wing back, you don't know who's going to play. And you probably don't want to captain John Stones or Harry Maguire as your last day captain over the other two. So that's for me.
Yeah, for my second day captain would, weirdly, I'll disagree with you on one bit and agree with you on the other. I think I've even got Harry Kane in my team. He's nowhere near the box. If he gets a pen, great, but I'm not counting on teams getting pens. Hopefully he does get a pen. Sterling has been great. Is it in Rome, this game?
Yeah, and apparently there's not many English fans even allowed in, even if they have tickets, because they were meant to be in Italy 2 weeks prior to the game.
Okay.
To self-isolate. So there's going to be a lot of stranded English fans, lots of empty seats. And so unless there's any English people who are living in Italy or who have done the 2-week isolation, which I can't even imagine watching the Germany game with that pressure.
Yeah.
You're taking a 2-week holiday in Italy.
Just in case.
Like, please. But yeah, so I don't know. It's kind of like that Premier League effect when there was no fans. Is that going to be a hindrance, or are you going to play with more freedom because you don't have the pressure of the fans?
I think Sterling likes fans. I think
we've definitely seen that this season.
Yeah, Absolutely. So that might be something to think about. And it's not at Wembley, and we know that feels like home to Sterling. I actually wouldn't mind captaining John Stones or Luke Shaw. It depends on how many England defenders you've got. If you've only got two, I actually maybe would captain one on the last day. Yarmolenko and Yaremchuk are the biggest threats for Ukraine. So if we can keep them quiet, I think we'll be fine. We've kept the most clean sheets in the competition so far, thanks to that Austria goal. And yeah, I think it makes sense. And Luke Shaw is doing his Man United bits now. He's still, I think, a little bit the assist of the assist, but he's got the potential to get up there. I do think he's nailed now ahead of Ben Chilwell. I think Ben Chilwell's opportunity's been and gone. So, but in John Stones can score from a set piece. I'd go Stones over Shaw, and I think John Stones is fully nailed. But if you've got three English defenders, let's say you've got two defenders and the goalkeeper, that's a lot of points on stake if Ukraine score one goal. So I maybe wouldn't captain them at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So really quick, let's fly through the predictions. So first game is Spain, Switzerland. Who do you think is going to go through?
I think Spain.
I'm going to go Switzerland.
I hope so.
Me too. I'm fully on the Fabian Schär bus. They're my new second team. Belgium v Italy.
I think Italy will go through. I want Italy to go through because I don't like Martinez.
I'm going to say Italy and out again. Exactly the same. The next game is Czech Republic, Denmark.
I really want Denmark to go through. I want to just see how far they can get with the extra motivation and stuff. And I just like them better as a team.
I'm going to go Denmark. We're the same. And lastly, I think we're probably the same. Ukraine, England.
Yeah, Ukraine all day.
England all day. Happy days. So on to our teams. Aaron, do you want to go first, or would you like me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first then. So my team, like what you've already said, playing the wild cards. So two goalkeepers, Donnarumma and Jordan Pickford. For my defenders, quite a lot of premiums. Again, that really ruined my team last round. So let's hope it doesn't happen again. I went Jordi Alba, Spinazzola, Luke Shaw, Joaquin Mele, who should be probably the most premium out of all of these, and then Harry Maguire, just as it is a little bit more of a differential to John Stones.
Are you not concerned that is Maguire not one booking away from a suspension though? So he might not play. He might play.
Good question.
Depends on how Gareth feels about it, but I think they get wiped after this game.
Yeah, I believe so. I'll have to look into that.
Declan Rice, Calvin Phillips, Harry Maguire, one other player I can't think of who are all one booking away as far as I'm aware. Just
cool. I mean, I'm 0.1 out from getting John Stones, so there's probably other players I can move around to be able to afford that. So midfielders, Sarabia, Shaqiri, Chiesa, Højbjerg, and Raheem Sterling. I'm not set on that. To be honest, my draft I did before this, probably happier with.
Okay.
But just trying to fit in, like just trying not to fall into the trap of doubling up on everyone. And you'll see with my forwards, Harry Kane, Lukaku, Morata. So I have Lukaku in currently because I realized that in my last draft, I had Immobile in there, which meant that I had absolutely no Belgian players at all. Yeah. And that game could go either way. Obviously, I don't have the 5 transfers. It's a little bit more lenient, but it would be hard having to spend 4 of them 5 to get my Italian players out if Belgium went through. But if I see Italy going through anyways, like, I don't know. So I think just over the course of this last pod, like after what we've been talking about, I'd probably go back to Immobile, Then I can obviously upgrade John Stones, two John Stones, and I can even upgrade Shaqiri up to someone else, maybe like a Torres, or even if I want a Belgian player, I could. I think it's only Hazard or someone like that worth getting. I don't know if Hazard's injured, maybe Carrasco's back in, but he's not been great.
Yeah.
Anyways, Lukaku, Morata, Harry Kane. So I kind of went all in on England because I can. If England get knocked out now, that would be a huge upset because they're, in terms of quality of their team, that I don't see it happening. I think they'll get to the final. And I did the same last year in the Champions League with Man City, where I saw their route to the final. And so I just started planning for who's probably going to play. And in terms of the players that I've got, other than Maguire, I think all of them will start in the final. So just get them in now.
Yeah.
That's my team, but check Twitter because it'll probably change.
Yeah. So that's the thing. We've got to look at a couple of things here. Number one, you've got to look at the route to the final. Who do you think is actually going to get to the final and plow into that lot? Secondly, there is a mathematical way of being as safe as possible. And that is going through the fixtures and working out best case scenario and worst case scenario. And obviously it's really easy. If you have 4 Italians and 1 Belgian, for example, you know that the worst case scenario is you're going to lose 4 players and keep 1. Really, really easy to do. So what you'd want is the best worst case scenario, if you like, is to have 5 players, like for your worst case scenario, that are let's say that again, your best case scenario are going to go out basically, because you get 5 transfers to sort everything out. So what you can do is field 10 players, which is enough for the semis. And if you want to take a -4, then you can. So that is one way of doing it. For me, I just went for my route to the final and keep my fingers crossed, because I think a lot of people will have these players anyway and will target these players. So that being said, run for the same keepers, Donnarumma and Pickford, by proxy of, I think, on match day 1, Donnarumma's the best keeper, and on match day 2, I think Pickford's the best keeper. That simple, really. They were my first 2 picks out of everyone. Defense, I am keeping with the CPR hero that is Simon Kjær. Against Czech Republic, anything can happen. The Czechs have been really good. Schick's been in form. For me, he'd be in my team of the tournament so far as one of the forwards comfortably. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. He scored arguably the best goal, although Benzema may have taken his crown. Depends on what sort of goal you like. And I've doubled up, obviously, with Jakub Miller. Jakub Miller is the first defender on 4.7. Crazy not to have him against Czech Republic, because I think he's going to give Soufal a torrid time. That being said, though, I think Soufal might be able to get at him the other way. So it should be a really fun game to watch at least. But I don't have any Czech players. I've just went for those 2, and we'll see what happens. The rest of my defenders, I've gone for John Stones. I think he's nailed. He's not on a yellow card. Most likely to score from a set piece. And I've gone for Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw is debatable still at the minute, but I think he's going to play. And he was great in the last game. And I do think we'll keep a clean sheet. So, and then Spinazzola. I think he's the best left back currently in the game as far as the game goes. He plays left wing, plays match day 1. I want as many match day 1 players as I can get, really. So yeah, no brainer, Spinazzola. Midfield, I've gone for, it's controversial. So I've gone for Sarabia and Torres. We'll see if they get a game or not. If they both start, they're both in, because I think they both got the same ceiling, probably a goal and an assist each, 2 assists each, something like that. And even though I've said I think Switzerland will, I think this could be another Croatia game where it could be 5-3. I've gone for Chiesa to manipulate that right-hand side, Belgium's left. I've gone for Raheem Sterling because he's in such good form. It's time to stop betting against him. He's been England's best player. Get him in. And I'm going to say my last midfielder with my first striker, and I've gone for Zuba with Seferovic. And I mentioned it earlier, Seferovic give France a torrid time in the air. You give them a torrid time on the ground. Spain have looked a bit dodgy. And Zuba's the one getting the assists. He's whipping those balls in, and he plays on the first day. So I really like having that punt because I've got 2 from Spain, 2 from Switzerland. I know 2 of them are going through and 2 of them are going out. And with 5 transfers, I don't mind that at all. My last 2 players, very suspect, these 2. I don't know if they'll stay. I've got Immobile, which puts me at 4 Italy, which petrifies the life out of me. Immobile may change to Patrick Schick. The reason I don't quite want Schick is because he's playing the second day, and I've got 2 Danish defenders, so I'm betting against myself.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could go to Dolberg and triple up on Denmark, which is a risk in itself. I just don't know what to do there. And I've got Lukaku, like you say. I need a Belgian player in case they go through. It's absolutely crazy not have a Belgian player. One thing that we looked at before was Lukaku's record against Juventus, really, because Bonucci and Chiellini is expected to be back. So they're Juventus' centre-backs. And Lukaku has 1 goal in the 4 games this season, and it was a penalty. So he's not done great against them. Done great against the rest of Italy's defenders in Serie A. I think you told me earlier I was 2nd top goal scorer for the pod. So I don't know. Lukaku really depends on Kevin De Bruyne as well. I think if he's in, but we just don't know if he's not. I'm kind of edging my bets there. And again, I've got Lukaku against a double Italy defense. But the thing is, I can take out whoever blanks. Mm-hmm. So it's not the same. I really wouldn't mind the Denmark Czech Republic game being on the first day. That would have been ideal because I could have bet against them as well and been a lot more comfortable. So that's what it is at the minute. But I'm not dead set on it. Just looking at my best and worst. Best case scenario, I have 12 players going through and only 3 out. Worst case scenario is obviously the reverse of that. I've got 12 players going out and 3 staying in, which means I would, without hits, be able to field a starting 8. But with that, I just need Italy or England to get through. Mm-hmm. And if that happens, then I think I'd be sound if one of those teams get through. And at this point, it might be worth putting your eggs in one basket. It's so hard to predict.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, like a lot of people's teams going in and not having to take hits, will rely on the Belgium-Italy game and where people see that game going. I think people who are probably playing a little bit safer will probably split that game in half and have like maybe 2 from each team or something like that.
2 and 2 or 3 and 3. Okay, you could go 3 and 3. I allow 5 players from each team in this round.
Yeah.
Go nuts, 5 and 5. That'd be very risky. Obviously, if you do split it, you know that you have to make that many transfers, which isn't great. So I don't know. It's really hard to predict. We could only go on the information that we've been given. And the Italy game is a risk. If I wasn't English, I'd be more confident of England. But because I am, I've got a natural skepticism because it's my team and the universe making me a Newcastle and England fan never wants to see me win anything as a fan. So that's my only skepticism. But looking at the route to the final, that's why I've gone for Denmark and England on one bracket, because we've seen England beat Czech Republic in the group stage, and Denmark have beat us previously in one of the games. So I think one of us, I do think it'll be England or Denmark that get to the final, personally. So that'll be Czech Republic versus Ukraine in the semis, obviously. And I do think it'll be Italy that get to the final on that bracket. So it's fun, edge bets. Oh, that's what I think we've got to do.
Before all of this, I had, like I said in the group preview, that Spain would get to the final. and then I saw what side of the bracket they were on. So I was like, oh, no chance. When we did our like kind of revisiting our predictions, I was like, no, Spain aren't good enough. And now that France were knocked out, who knows?
Who knows?
And that's the crazy thing, is that yeah, it's so difficult to predict, because I feel like it's not necessarily the good teams getting worse. I think it's the next tier of teams learning how to play against the good ones better, and that they're getting managers who have played against these big teams and know all their systems and stuff. So Switzerland and Czech Republic knocking out these other teams, it's because they're used to playing better opposition now. And whether that's down to the Nations League, whether that's just down to the quality of players from these nations getting more like into the top leagues of countries, I think it's quite interesting to look into. Maybe see how they do in the World Cup when we've got more data. Could be something that if someone's looking to get into journalism or sports journalism, could be something to look into. Write something up on it and let us know what you find, because I think that's quite an interesting read.
So feel free to send us your teams tomorrow before the deadline. Otherwise, won't be able to say them. And preferably towards the end of the day. Just as news comes in, remember, for anyone, do not confirm your transfers yet. I don't know how much I can stress that. I've seen people with confirmed transfers. Why? Just wait. Have some patience. We will see the starting lineups for the first game, and that may affect your decision. There may be a surprise in there that you're not expecting. There may be a differential. There may be a cheap player. We just don't know. Belotti might start up front. The madness. So be patient. Don't make your transfers yet, regardless of what it is. You have time. It's not like anyone's price is going to change overnight. Just be calm. And obviously, best of luck. We will see you next time. I imagine we'll probably just do one for each round now, Aaron. Just jump on, do a team reveal. Now that the wild cards are over and done with, it'll just be us and our little 5 transfers left to go each round. So hopefully we'll get through. Please follow us. We are on Twitter at UCL Fantasy Pod. So catch us there. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, a lot of it. Just
all of them.
All of them, everywhere. We're probably in cinemas near you. Maybe not that much. But we will see you next time, and best of luck to everyone for the next round. Bye now.